Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope everyone's had a very good week. Unfortunately, I did find myself very sick from about Wednesday onwards, just about over it now. We are back on the channel tonight. We'll be on the agenda tonight as well, so much sure to tune in for that. And let's get into tonight's show. So, plenty I want to get talking about. I guess one of the big stories that we have today is the ongoing injury crisis, and I think it's beyond time that we stop looking at this as bad luck, and it's about time that we start to look inwards and say, what is the root cause of these injuries? Where are we picking up 65 different absences throughout this season? And I think really, we got to look at the medical department. We have to look at the reports today that Manchester United are considering leaving Carrington. That is a recommendation made by Board of Directors member Sir Dave Brailsford. But as well as that, I think we've got to look at some of these interesting reports coming out about Erik ten Hag. Now, I have been saying this for a while, and whether or not we've always wanted to believe it, it does seem to have elements of truth, that these players are being overworked, overtrained, and they are ending up injured as a result of this. There has been numerous occasions this season where players have been playing through injury, having failed fitness tests. The most recent, of course, being on Monday night. It was Johnny Evans in that match. He failed the fitness test and played the full 90 minutes anyway because we had nobody else to play. And for me, it's really starting to get to that point now where this is a gross negligence of care for a lot of these players. And 65 different injuries. Is Mason Mount injured now? He won't be the last player injured this season. There's no doubt about it in my mind that it's not going to come down to too much else. But other than this, club genuinely is absolutely broken from the inside. We're looking at Mount being injured, but Luke Shaw has suffered a setback as well. Big ups to Jeremy, looking sharp with a fresh cut. Cheers, buddy. I got a cut, honestly, on Tuesday, and then I spent Wednesday, Thursday in bed, had to go to work today. But we're back. We're back, and hopefully over the worst of this sickness that I got. Pretty rough time, honestly. I was meant to be on the agenda last night and then had to pull out because I was just so ill. But we'll be okay. We'll be okay. So yeah, look, Lisandro Martinez is asking to play against Arsenal. Ten Hag says it's a bit too soon. Let's wait and find out what happens there, because I wouldn't be surprised if he's put into the starting 11 for that match. I really wouldn't, the way we've gone so far. But these injuries are really starting to build up, and 65 different injuries across the season does not happen by accident. It doesn't happen by bad luck. It doesn't happen by fluke or by having overly injury-prone players. Last season, these players were no more injury-prone than some of the other teams around us. Looking at Liverpool or looking at City, everyone has sustained injuries this season. Newcastle have had plenty. Chelsea have had plenty. Tottenham Hotspur have had lots of injuries as well. It's not just us who has suffered with these injuries, and I do have to start to question, where are they coming from? What is the cause? Where is the injuries actually happening to our players from? Big ups to Lincoln down there. Cannot see a makeshift team beating Arsenal. No, man, I can't. I can't see United's full team beating this Arsenal team at the minute either. I really can't. Now, look, I got some interesting stuff that I want to run through here. Now, the source of this is very interesting. It's from an outlet called PL Brazil. So they're a Brazilian based publication, which would lead you to suggest, where are these leaks coming from about Manchester United? Where are these leaks coming from with these inside informations about players going to private consultants? Where is this information coming about Erik ten Hag being accused of being negligent towards injuries? Where is this coming from within our team? We've only got two Brazilian players. It's Casemiro and it's Antony. That's kind of the questions that we're starting to ask here. And look, there's been different rumours circulating about certain players going out to different fan channels, going out to different media outlets all season. I think we can put two to two together in our heads and we can come up with an answer here. So look, this outlet has said some of United's players have preferred to consult private specialists or ignore the injury rather than opting for treatment from the club's medical team. The poor performance of the medical staff is pointed out as another cause of the reoccurring injuries so far this season. Many Manchester United players blame Erik ten Hag for the excessive amount of injuries this year. According to some, he makes mistakes in maintaining the training load throughout the season. Even with accumulated fatigue, it's much greater in the final stretch. Exhausting sessions, cancellations of days off, and complaints about training have been relevant topics at United for a while, and one source went so far as to say he blows everyone up. So we do have to start to look into this here. Big ups to Bourne for being in the comments as well. It's good to see you guys. Honestly, look, with a really good stream Tuesday night. Honestly, I have been bedridden for the last 2 days, but we're all good now. We're all good and back to normal. So it's good to see everybody back out. But these injuries certainly, whilst I don't know if they really matter too much at this point. I don't know if United picking up an injury to Luke Shaw or setbacks to Mount or whatever. I really don't know if it matters that much in terms of the season. I think the season's been dead for a long time. There's the FA Cup final. That's probably about all that matters at this point. And I don't know. I can't see that one going well either. But I do think the injuries are a sign of a bigger issue at this club, and that is mismanagement from the coaching staff, and that probably is going to be mismanagement from the club. We haven't had a specialist fitness coach all season. We've only just appointed one. We brought in O'Driscoll from Arsenal, and seemingly the issues have just gotten worse. And now we have reports coming out that Sir Dave Brailsford is recommending leaving Carrington, getting a new training ground. All of a sudden, a lot of things are starting to add up, and you do have to question the state of the club behind the scenes, the stuff that maybe we're not always privy to as fans, and maybe we do have to start to look inwards, as well as looking at the different members of the coaching staff, or looking at the lack of preparation or consideration from what we're seeing in these clear player briefs coming out today. And look, like I said, it's to a Brazilian outlet. You can put two and two together to see where that's coming from. We only have 2 Brazilian players in the squad, so it's not too difficult to see maybe where this has come from. A complaint about Ten Hag also concerns the heavy climate that the manager creates in the team's defeats. It's not uncommon for him to opt for quote-unquote exaggerated individual charges in the locker room, including against players who arrived at the club at the request of Ten Hag himself. This again, which Brazilian players was Ten Hag demanding that we went out and signed? It's very obvious where this is coming from. Even in episodes where the punishment is fair and attitude is condemned by the majority, the lack of criteria is emphasised. Other players have committed indisciplines of the same degree as Jadon Sancho and did not get close to the same level of punishment. So, I don't know. I think we can all work out where this leak's coming from, where this brief's coming from against the manager. And personally, I think when you look at the on-field responses from said player, I think, you can start to see a real, this guy's turning against the guy who's brought him here. This guy's looking very frustrated out there, throwing his hands up, mouthing off, picking up bookings, jumping into tackles and stuff, and just being genuinely a problem on the pitch for us in bad ways. Bourne is down there with or without injuries. The Mount signing was pointless, and Ten Hag should be sacked for that alone. Look, Mount's one of those ones. It's like, I got the signing when we made it. I was a fan of us doing it. I still think there's a really good player in there. Whether or not we're ever going to see it, I don't know. Has he broke down? Possibly. Will he ever get fit again? I don't know. It's one of those where we really can't judge has he been a good signing or not based on what he's done on the pitch, because he's played something like 15% of the available minutes this season. And yeah, absolutely, probably should be doing more on the pitch, or we haven't got enough of him onto the pitch really to make any kind of a difference. But you do have to feel sorry for him as well. And he's not the only player that's been mismanaged this season. Luke Shaw's the same, Lissandro Martinez the same, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, Rasmus Højlund. We've even had Bruno Fernandes injured, and Bruno Fernandes being injured has to be a wake-up call, because he is the only player in the entire squad who had never had an injury in his career before this season. Bruno Fernandes had played 500 consecutive matches without an injury until it got to this season, whatever we've done to the guy. So I'm absolutely not surprised, that things do tend to get worse from this. Jeremy said, I think Mount made some sense given the aging Eriksen, but obviously it hasn't worked yet. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. It hasn't worked yet. It might work in future if we get him fit, if we get him available and able to play week in, week out. Yeah, then maybe, he can do enough on the pitch to justify the signing. But, at this point in time, it's hard for us really to say or argue against the case. We should have just not signed him and tried to get him on a free this year. There's not too much really we can argue about with that there one. But I guess what we'll get moving on to is the broader story here, and the injuries are one part of it. What I've been talking about today was something of a briefing or a leak that's come out from a Brazilian outlet and seemingly from a player who had been brought in by Eric Ten Hag at his request, at his demand. I think we can work out who it is. It brings us on to the bigger story. Is this a case of the players have finally given up on the manager? Could we be getting to that point? I don't know. I feel like it's very difficult for Eric Ten Hag if he is trying to be enough, stamp his authority and have a high level of discipline within that dressing room at the minute. You know, going out and losing 4-0 to Crystal Palace. You know, seeing embarrassing stories going out there today as well about his briefings and his tactical plan for playing against Everton. And I want to run through this one because this is an interesting one as well. And this definitely does him no favours in that dressing room. Before Manchester United's 2-0 win over Everton on March the 9th, Eric Ten Hag spent long hours explaining to the team how Everton would play. They would play with low lines, they wouldn't press the ball, they would sit deep. The game started and exactly the opposite happened. Everton stifled United's defence for the first second. There was at least 4 good chances created by Everton within 15 minutes. United did end up winning the game 2-0 through 2 penalties, but the case was enough to increase the players' ever-growing distrust in Eric Ten Hag. And you know, when we see this here, when we have a manager telling us Everton are going to play exactly like this, and then they go out and do the exact opposite, when you have a disillusioned player base, whenever you have a group of players who are potentially questioning the manager's methods week in, week out, and then he's telling them, giving them long lectures, giving them presentations on how Everton are going to play, and they go out and do the opposite, then all of a sudden, you know, that's going to be the players going, why should we listen to you in future? Why should we listen to what you have to say tactically? I just don't know. I really don't know, guys. Chris H says Mount has no obvious place in the team. Yeah, that's probably also true. I mean, there's no place in the team for Mason Mount in the current system we're playing. You know, he's not a number 6. He can't play in a pivot. If you play Mount and Bruno as your 2 number 8s, then you've no physicality in the middle of the pitch whatsoever. And, you know, this is a team that sorely lacks genuine strength, genuine pace, genuine athleticism. And you're trying to put Mount and Bruno as a midfield too. You know, that's just never, ever going to work in my opinion. You know, it's hard to look past that. Look, guys, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but if you guys want to get voting on today's poll as well, I have been asking you guys for match predictions for the match against Arsenal. So to win, a win, a draw, a loss, or do we just have absolutely no chance? It's hard for me to see us having much of a chance at all. Most people's going for a loss. Very little people are going to go for the win there as well. But certainly, I think it's pretty. I'd be stunned if we beat Arsenal on Sunday. I really would be. I really, really would be. But I want to go through a little bit more of this outlet from Brazil who've come out with this interesting story about Ten Hag. The way Ten Hag approaches the preparation for the matches is a target of complaints in the dressing room. The Dutchman is in the habit of holding tactical meetings that will precede each game and are usually extensive. 30 minutes to 40 minutes to 50 minutes, and these are repeated 4 or 5 times a week, a frequency that bothers and surprises the locker room. More than one player says that he has had lectures of this type with Eric Ten Hag he's had more lectures of this type of Ten Hag than in the rest of his long career. Players do not assimilate instructions, and its difficult and tiring method is linked to the dressing room. Now, I think that's interesting because on one hand, you know, you want to be prepared for matches. I'm not digging out the manager on this one. I think the players should be focusing on it. If he wants them to sit down and listen to a lecture or watch a lecture, then they should do, and they should try to take it in. Absolutely. But I think it's interesting when we see last night an interesting quote that came out from Carlo Ancelotti where he basically said along the same lines that a lot of coaches now are so focused on the tactical element, trying to put so much instructions into the players' heads that it overloads them. Sometimes you need to give the players the freedom to go out there and play themselves, express themselves, and have some faith in them on the pitch as well. And maybe it's difficult, you know, to argue with that in a lot of senses, especially when you look at the results of what Real Madrid have achieved in the last couple of years. Now, of course, they're operating at a much higher level. They've got a much better squad than Manchester United do, and they can probably do it. But I think that comes down to mentality as well. I really do. I think Madrid just have that genuine belief in themselves that they will win, that they will just persevere, and they will eventually find the goals and overcome the obstacles. I don't know if we got that belief at the minute, and it's strange because I feel like we should. We are a team that has always been able to do that. We're a team that's always had the capability of going until the very last moment in the match and, you know, really going out there until the last second and just never giving up. You know, we should still be doing that there. But certainly when you look at what Real Madrid have accomplished this season, you look at Bayer Leverkusen, another example, refusing to lie down. Maybe there is elements of these players not having that kind of mentality, not having that kind of belief in themselves and in their club. I don't know. I don't know. But I think one thing is for sure is that the knives seem to be out for Erik ten Hag within Manchester United's dressing room. This is a pretty damaging piece going out there about him today. Now, ultimately, I don't think this is going to matter. I don't think the player's opinion is going to matter too much in the case of Erik ten Hag's future. I think that will be mostly down to what Ineos decide to do with their leadership team, with Brailsford and Blanc and Wilcox, and of course Barada probably will have something of a say in that. You would imagine if Ashworth gets done in the near future, then that probably is also going to be a point of contention, and he will have his own say in that. But you do have to look at it from that point of view that they're going to be making the call on Erik ten Hag's future, probably not the players. And I think more so than ever there might be a willingness, to cut ties with some of these players and not have them around, which is probably a good thing. I think we need a big clear out, and I think you guys would agree with that as well. Look, any more thoughts, make sure to drop them in down below. Rajat is saying 2-2 for Sunday's match. I don't know, man. I think we're getting beat, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think we'll score. I do think we'll score. But I can't see us win that one, to be honest. I think Arsenal are just looking pretty good at the minute, and they got a lot to play for. We don't have anything to play for outside of the FA Cup final. But look, that's a pretty interesting article there on Erik ten Hag. I would recommend anyone go out and have a little read at that if they want to as well. Some interesting points made in there, and definitely that's coming from within Manchester United's dressing room. That's coming from a Brazilian player in the dressing room. From what we can see on it, I think it's pretty easy to work out who it probably is. In other news, Casemiro has not been selected for the Brazil squad for the first time, probably in about 10 years, that barring injuries, but that's based on form, and I can't say I'm surprised either. His form is absolutely plummeted, no doubt about it whatsoever. Guys, we've got 19 votes in the poll. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you haven't already. And we've got some more to go through as well. We'll run through some of Erik ten Hag's quotes from his press conference today. But first, I do want to talk to you about Carrington. Now, we have been at Carrington, the Aon training complex, for about 20-something years at this point. When first built, it was cutting edge, top of the line, and the best in the country, like Manchester United were 20 years ago. Since then, like the club as a whole, it has fell into a slumber. It has fell into decay and rot, and now we have made the decision, seemingly with Sir Dave Brailsford recommending that we move and build a new training facility, that Carrington is not up to scratch, and that is leading us falling further and further behind in terms of elite level performance. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. We had an interview with Ronaldo probably 2 years ago at this point now, with Piers Morgan. We've seen that. He was talking about the condition of United's training facilities. He was talking about the same issues being there. He said there was a crack in the pool that was there whenever he left, and whenever he came back all those years later, the crack was still there in the pool. And that must have been about 10 years difference as well at that point. So yeah, no surprise about that there. When the training ground itself just has not been updated in 2 years, it's fallen behind, and it does look like we're going to be moving away from Carrington. Can't say I'm too surprised about that. I think Old Trafford could be the next one in their reviews that they're doing, and we're probably going to end up with a new stadium, in my opinion. Rajat said Casemiro and Anthony didn't make it. Not that difficult. No, it's not really difficult to figure out who the leak to Brazilian newspapers have come from about all these intricate details from the United team. We've got 2 Brazilians, so it's 50-50. I think it's pretty obvious who it's going to be. Anyway, we'll get talking here about Ten Hag's press conference. Go through that in a little bit of depth, building up to the Arsenal match. So Marcus Rashford trained today. This morning it looks quite well. Ten Hag says he has to recover, and it looks quite good. He hopes tomorrow we can make the next training, and we'll see if he's available for Sunday. It's one of those, it's like, according to those outlets and those reports that came out, the fact that we're having training tomorrow should be concerning, because based upon what we've learned from that report, if it is indeed true, then they're going to be doing heavy running the day before a big match at home against Arsenal, which isn't good. You're going to run out of energy that way. Bourne said, Sabitzer was constantly injured at United, but at Dortmund he's a key player. Something is not right at this club. No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Something is not right at this football club. Look at the injury records when players are here as compared to when they're gone. Look at them before they arrive here versus whenever they arrive at Manchester United. I seen a really interesting tweet, and I will go through this one just because Bourne has very kindly reminded me of it. Let me quickly see if I can pull it up because I want to go through this. This is kind of shocking in a lot of ways. It's one of those. Maybe it is surprising, but we kind of would suspect it as well. Just give me one quick second here, guys. Let me pull it up. Let me see. Somebody sent it to me earlier, very kindly of them. Maybe I've gone past it. Let me see. Yeah, here we are. Okay, let me quickly go through this one, guys. This is an interesting one for sure. Whenever you're saying something right isn't at this club. Mason Mount only missed 18 games for Chelsea across 4 seasons, and he's already missed 27 for United in 10 months. Lisandro Martinez only missed 13 games before joining us. Since joining us, he has missed 48 matches. Something is not right at this club. Let me put this into the chat because we need to see those numbers in front of us sometimes. Something is really, really not right at our football club in terms of what we're doing with these injuries. Something is not right whatsoever, and it's costing us on the pitch because we're too reliant on a couple of players. That's probably recruitment's fault. Let me quickly do this. But anyway, as you guys know, that is not good. Whenever you're looking at this here, looking at the numbers, Mason Mount only missed 18 matches in 4 years. And all of a sudden, he's missed 27 in this one season. Then you look at Lisandro Martinez, who, in the space of his Manchester United career, has missed almost 50 matches. He has only missed 13 matches in his entire career before they joined us. These are seasoned pros. These are guys who have played a lot of matches, played a lot of football. That's very concerning, and it does kind of contextualise it. Big ups to Luman for joining in. Good to see him. Rejad said, God, Arsenal's doctor was a curse when it came to United. It's one of those things, because Arsenal fans told us expect a lot of injuries, so maybe they were right. Chris H said Mount missed most of his final season. Yeah, I think he did, probably. I think that's probably where most of those 18 games came from, but I think Lisandro Martinez equally is valid, and make no mistake about it, Bruno Fernandes getting injured is a massive one as well. Bruno has never missed a match in his career through injury, and all of a sudden he's missed one this week. He could miss 2. He's played with broken hands. He's played through a lot of pain before for us, and all of a sudden now he genuinely is so injured he cannot play. And if we know Bruno Fernandes' mentality, then it's got to be pretty bad. He's got to be in a lot of pain, for him not to be willing to play or not being able to play. Has to be a big thing for him, surely. Anyway, Jarl is down there. Good to see you, buddy. Not just the doctor. When they say no in the player, still either trains or players, whose fault really is it? Yeah, it's one of those, Jarl, because, if we listen to some of the sources, they say the players are told to train and play through the matches anyway. Johnny Evans failed the fitness test on Monday night before we went to Selhurst Park. He still played the full 90. And that's not the only occasion. That's happened many times this season. A player has come back from injury, and then all of a sudden he's injured straight away again, or he gets injured the match he comes back. It's happened time and time again this season, so much so that we can't really ignore it anywhere. We can't really afford to ignore it, in my opinion. Anyway, I've got Liman down there. Are the Glazers to blame for this? Probably in a lot of ways. When you think about it, the training ground falling so far behind, that's going to be on the Glazers. They haven't given the money or the empowerment to go out there and improve the infrastructure behind the scenes. That's probably going to fit into it. We've played most of this season without a fitness coach. That's probably going to come into Glazer stuff as well. What have I got here, Liman? How can this happen to a club like United in the 21st century? I would blame the useless fans, as Real Madrid fans would never accept this crap if it happened at their club. It's one of those, we do need to demand more of the club as well. It's not a case of Real Madrid where we're going to get the white hankies out when we're dissatisfied with the performance. But I do think for the longest time there was a lot of willful ignorance under the Fergie years under the Glazers, because we're still winning trophies, but the rot had set in, and it was a ticking time bomb. And I think people are really alert to it now. I think most fans are genuinely in acceptance when they say a lot of change has to happen at this club, and we're not going to be able to have sentimental feelings towards this. We are going to have to be ruthless in a lot of ways. We are going to have to clear players out. Managers might have to go. We might have to move stadium. We might probably going to have to move training facilities. If we want to be a 21st century team, if you want to be the biggest team in the world, like we want to be, like we should be, where we are meant to be, then yeah, we got to be kind of ruthless with this stuff as well. Chrissy said Rashford regularly plays when injured. Yeah, look, this isn't just an Eric Ten Hag thing. Marcus Rashford was playing for this United team with two broken vertebrae in his back for several months. That's 2 or 3 years ago. Like, that could be part of the reason why he no longer looks himself this season. I don't know. Big ups to Lucky Singh down below. If the players don't run, I hope they're embarrassed. What have they done? Rajad said, why is Evan still here when it's 2024? Yeah, it's one of those, buddy. Bourne said, I just remembered, is Ten Hag's tactic when United leading and Onana starts wasting time, even if it's first half? I think so as well. There's allowances made for goalkeepers. You'll notice it all the time in a lot of matches. The referees basically it's weird. So, like, if a player gets injured and they need some kind of medical treatment, they have to go off the pitch, but goalkeepers don't. So a goalkeeper will just lie down for a bit. You'll see it all the time. City did all the time. Liman said United fans can't even protest for unity. Rajad, Ten Hag could work at Bayern because already have delayed Kane, Kim Min Jae, and a lot of players. He demanded. Maybe. Jeremy said the fan base is the last place I would blame. Yeah, I don't think it's the fan base's fault. I think the fans have always been very united with the Glazers out message, and that has always been the case. I do think there's divisions within the fan base that isn't particularly helpful. I do think the belief from a lot of match-going fans of people who watch from home or watch from abroad aren't real fans or don't deserve their own opinion on it. I don't think that helps. And then on the flip side, I don't think the top reds stuff you see on Twitter from people going after match-going fans as well, I don't think that particularly helps. I don't think the fan base is the cause of this. I think as fans, we need to accept that this is a big problem and big issue at our football club, and it is going to be a long-term fix, and it needs to be both sustainable, it needs to be practical, and it's going to have to be pretty ruthless at times as well. So there will be players who go or who are moved out who might be fan favourites. They might be academy graduates. They might be players who are popular among the fan base. Eric Ten Hag could get sacked, even though he probably has a lot of support still within the fan base. We might see United building a new stadium right next to Old Trafford, which again might not have the most support from match-going fans, might not have the biggest support within the fan base, but it might be needed. We might have to move from Carrington. That might have to be done. There will be decisions and difficult decisions to be made. Sometimes I think the hard decisions they have to be made in these things as well. So I'm pretty open-minded about what we do going forward, because if we want to be a successful team, if we want to be a team that goes out there and wins trophies, win the big stuff, we really got to be willing to sacrifice a lot, and we have to be willing to do anything to get to that point, in my opinion. Let me see. Chris H is saying Onana wasting time is very annoying. Yeah, it's just wasting time. Lucky saying the players embarrassed this again. I'm not having it. Le Mans says Ten Hag go to Bayern. Rajad said Joel playing golf right now. He probably is, man. He probably is. Lucky is down there. McTominay, Casemiro, Armand Bissaka for on time to move on. Probably will be. Am I doing a preview to the FA Cup final for the women's? I haven't really looked ahead too much, man. Everything is I'm still trying to get caught up in this week. Honestly, been really sick all week. Haven't been out of bed, but if I get time, I'll do something. Hopefully for both. Anyways, I got 23 votes in the poll. 39% going for a loss, 22 for the no chance, 17 for the draw, and 22% going to go for a win. I don't know how I feel about that, guys. Like, I really don't know how tonight's going to go. Le Mans said, is in Radcliffe's difficulty in cleaning the mess? I mean, what has he done so far? It's all talks and not any groundwork. I think it is groundwork. I think it's kind of reviewing what we need to be doing or what we're going to be doing, and how we're going to get to the point that we have to get to. You know, what changes do we have to make? What alterations? What needs to go? What can stay? Who needs to go? I think this is always going to be the longer part of it, because this club has been broken for a long time, and there will be very talented people working at the club who are disenfranchised and have been disempowered and won't have been able to make decisions or make the calls that they could have made that could really have helped us. The cleric will come at some point. You know, it will come out at some point. And people will be brought in. But I'm quietly optimistic. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks and months. It'll be an interesting 6-month period, I reckon. Probably until the end of the year, really. Anyway, Ten Hag, going back to our press conference today, he said, if the owners give him a vote of confidence, you have to ask the question to the owners, not to me. It's my job, and I take responsibility to speak to you. I don't care if they do or don't. I have to keep working on improving my team. He also says we're still fighting. We have a huge cup final coming up in 2 weeks. We are still there. It can be the highlight of the season. We know why we are underperforming. I'm a realistic person. I can say this. I analyse, and no team can perform with these injuries. He's speaking as well. He says, after the 4-0 defeat against Crystal Palace, they backed us, the fans, that is. They see how we struggle, they see the problems, and they have a good understanding about the injuries we have. They keep backing the team, and I'm very happy with them. Look, that team and that performance against Crystal Palace on Monday will have done Eric Ten Hag absolutely no favours in the minds of Ineos, because they're demanding elite level competition, and they will have looked at it from the point of view saying this is a team who were relegation candidates under Roy Hodgson, who have brought a coach in who has managed to turn things around, got a system going despite their own problems with personnel and constant injuries to their best players, and they're suddenly sitting in the mid-table, and all of a sudden they're putting 4 goals past us at Selhurst Park. You know, they beat us home and away this season, Crystal Palace. So, you know, what are we doing? You know, if we're demanding elite level excellence, they're not going to be happy with that level of performance. Trust me on that one. Guys, drop a like on today's video if you can. We're up to 15 likes. Let's see if we can get up to 20 as well, just while we'll have everybody in here. Anything else? I don't think so comment-wise. Let me head back anyway. We'll see what Ten Hag's been talking about. McTominay and Bruno are back in training, but unlikely to feature against Arsenal. Yeah, I think that's pretty much set in stone at that point. And there was something else as well I wanted to go through. According to Disco Mirror, I think this is David McDonald from the Daily Mirror. He says, an insider has described the mood among the squad as miserable, with many players convinced Ten Hag will be sacked in this summer. The players fear they will not win another game this season. Morale and confidence is so low among the squad that there's a feeling that the season is already over. So, I mean, that doesn't help us either. You know, if we're trying to like rally ourselves for some kind of a push towards the end of the season, or even trying to build momentum to the FA Cup final, you know, we've got players talking here in the press saying that the season's over, they're going to lose every match, so that's not helpful either. Chrissy had said Ten Hag blames defensive injuries for all the problems, yet when Varane, Martinez and Shaw were all there in the earlier season, we're still wide open and without tactics. It is, yeah, look, that's just deflection. That's all that is, because in my head, you think about a team, whenever you set up in a 4-3-3 like what we've done, you basically have 3 phases of play. You've got the first phase, which is your goalkeeper and your defenders. Second phase is kind of the midfield, defenders into midfield, and then third phase is going to be your midfielders in your forward line. Those are your 3 phases. By the time the ball gets to the edge of the box where you're conceding shots, your team is already failed to A, win it in a high press, win the ball back off the opposition, B, cut out the progression of the ball through carries or passes in the middle of the pitch, and you're already into the danger zone defending your first phase. That's not what you want. If you break the team up and you break the whole game up into phases, into 3 groups, your defense, your midfield, and your attack, by the time the ball gets to your defense, 2/3 of your game plan is already failed in trying to do that there when you're getting caught in transitions, which isn't helpful. It's not. Rajat said Mbappe has confirmed he's going to leave PSG. I'm not surprised. Man Utd, how much time would it take Radcliffe to bring normality in all departments, including medical? I think, you know, we're going to have to prioritise. I think medical needs to be brought up to scratch immediately. I think we've got to look immediately at recruitment, and I think we've got to look immediately at the sporting project in its entirety, with, you know, the management and the players we have at the moment. I think you can delegate and you can go to specialists about stadiums and you can go to specialists about your training facilities. I don't think we need to have the big decision makers working on that. I want them working on the manager. I want them working on the players. I want them working on the summer. That's what I want to focus on, not the Carrington's not up to purpose. We don't need the big decision makers making those kind of calls. They should already know that there. Chrissy had said nearly as many shots as conceded as Derby in 2008, who finished with 11 points. Exactly, like that is what it's coming down to. We're still conceding so many shots every single match, regardless of what happens. Rajat said Mbappe needs Real Madrid more than Madrid need him. I would agree with that as well. Be interesting to see what happens with Vinicius. Anyway, let me quickly do this here because I want to go through this here just because I think it's interesting, and it brings to mind some of the points you guys were making about shots being conceded, about the issues we've had, because I remember match day one thinking, why are we so open against Wolves? Wolves are walking through this team, without any resistance whatsoever to it. So I'm quickly going to pull up a couple of these matches early season. Just give me 2 seconds. And one of the matches we keep talking about, and Eric Ten Hag keeps talking about, is the Arsenal match. But if you look at that Wolves match, right? Against Wolves had 23 shots against us at Old Trafford. We only had 15. That was our full strength team, and we conceded 23 shots to Wolves. That's genuinely absurd. You look the next week we played Tottenham Hotspur. Against Tottenham Hotspur, we conceded 17 shots. That wasn't good either. That's 40 shots in the first 2 matches of this season, and I guarantee you there will be more. I guarantee if we'll go against Arsenal, 3-1 defeat at the Emirates. Arsenal had 27 shots against us in that match. I guarantee if we go again and look at the 3-2 against Forest probably had a similar number. These are some of the big issues we got. Big ups to Steph down there. It's good to see Stephanie. It's good to see Darkrow as well. People are looking Mbappe in. I can't see us getting Mbappe, guys. Sorry to tell you. And yeah, look, if we look at Forest again, well, they had 9 shots and scored twice. To be fair, that's probably one of the lower totals we faced all season. But yeah, look, first 2 matches against Wolves, against Tottenham, you're conceding 40 shots. If you put in the Arsenal match, that's 67 shots conceded in 3 matches. That's just unsustainable, and that's even with your best team and your best players. This is a system issue. This is a big issue we've had with our team all year. Guys, we're up to 20 likes as well. Big ups for that there one. And look, it's an interesting day, and some of the stories coming out are really interesting. I would keep your eye out on that that Brazilian outlet who seems to have had a lot of inside information. I've never really heard of them before today, and they seem to have a very in-depth piece with a lot of quotes coming from different sources and different players within the dressing room. They seem to have a lot of different things in relation to insider information that wouldn't be privy to the general media, and you wonder how Brazilian outlets are getting this the same day that Antony and Casemiro are let out of the Brazil squad, left out of their squad for the upcoming internationals. And you start to put things together in your head, and we've had an issue with leaks all season. And there has been rumours about certain players, and maybe things are genuinely adding up in our heads as well when we go through this here. What do we got from Steph? We're talking Mystic Power. 21 likes as well. Christy had said Ten Hag says it's fine as we're entertaining. It's probably okay we're probably entertaining for neutrals, or if you're a fan of Liverpool or like City or something, you probably enjoy watching us at the minute conceding 30 shots against Crystal Palace, or conceding 5 goals here, 4 goals here. It's been a long old season. It's been a tiring old season, and it's been a testing season. It really has. Matata says, how do you find Rangnick and what he said about your club? Can he be trusted? I would say this about Ralph Rangnick. I don't think Ralph Rangnick said anything that I would call overly groundbreaking or insightful. Yeah, okay, he was an active club employee who said that the club needed open heart surgery and that he needed massive amounts of change. But everybody who was involved with the club in terms of managers or fans, players, whatever, it probably turned a lot of them against him. From the fan point of view, we look at it from, yeah, look, you're stating the absolute obvious. A lot of these players aren't good enough and we need to clear them out. If we want to be a really good team, we've got to get rid of the deadwood, get rid of the bad eggs in the team, and get players in who want to work, want to train, want to be hard-working players for us on the pitch, want to succeed and have the ability and have the mentality to do so. I don't think he really said anything groundbreaking or revolutionary, but I would say from the Ralph Rangnick point of view that it probably brought some light into it. And it's interesting because I wonder if he was still at the club now, if he was a manager, or at least the going to be the consultant role or whatever he was meant to be doing at the minute. Would he have been kept on by Ineos? Would they have valued his opinion? Jeremy said Rangnick had the stones to stake, like we all knew. Yeah, exactly. That's it. I think that's what it came down to. He had the balls to say it, what we were all feeling, but it wasn't anything new or groundbreaking. But it was kind of refreshing to hear from within the club, and it's one of those. I think you don't hear it from Ten Hag at the moment. I wonder what could happen with Rangnick if he was here at this moment in time. Would he be kept on by Ineos? I don't know. I really don't know. Because ultimately he was let go because he bruised some egos on the board from Richard Arnold and the likes as well. Bourne said, which out of 10 Hag signing can you give a 10 or 9 out of 10? Probably none, man. First season, Lisandro Martinez, yeah, you probably give him an 8 or 9, but he's barely kicked the ball since. Ericsson, can't really give him a 10. Can't really give Casemiro a 10 because he's been dreadful this season. Højlund not had any service and has flattered to deceive with his performances sometimes this season. Anthony, definitely not. Mount, definitely not. Malacia, definitely not. You look at some of the other players who have brought in. Onana has made mistakes this season, but probably been good in the whole. But I mean, very little. Steph says 10 players out, no more celebrity footballers. I would agree with that as well. I want to see a big clear out in this window. Matata said, was this medical signal there at Rangnick's time? If it was, he would have said it. It probably was as well. We were very negligent with our players then as well. We had Rashford playing with a broken back, very pain injections. Like, that genuinely really set us back and set him back. And that's definitely going to hurt him later down his career if it hasn't started to already. But I don't know. Rajat said 9.9.5 Casemiro last year. Yeah, but I would put Casemiro down as like a 2 or 3 out of 10 this year. He's been dreadful nearly every match he's played. Been so far off the pace so often as well with it. Look, guys, I think I'm going to leave the stream here, but I am going to be on the United Agenda in about 15 minutes time, so make sure to tune in over there. So yeah, quick stream here, and then hopping back onto the agenda for a preview tonight as well. So make sure to tune in if you guys can. And as well as that, we'll be live again tomorrow, probably at an earlier time during the afternoon. So if you're free, make sure to hop on in. Would appreciate seeing everybody out there. Thanks so much for watching tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. And hopefully catch some of you soon.